on Monday, the 22nd of September 2025. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez, and we are with Mr. Lamin Manneh, Assistant Secretary for External Affairs of the United Democratic Party. Lamin, you've become more visible in recent months. What's the reason for your re-engagement with domestic politics? A lot of people, point to the fact that for many years you were not even living in this country.
Yeah.
You were working outside the country, making, God knows, tons of monies, away from here. Nobody heard you during that Jammeh era when your party leader was being persecuted and all of that. So they look at you now, you're visible, you're vocal, you're seen everywhere and say, why now?
Yeah,
so what's the reason behind your re-engagement with Gambian politics?
In fact, people say that a lot. Where was he before? Yeah. I was an international civil servant working for a development finance institution, African Development Bank to be precise, which prevents us from engaging in national politics overtly. What we do behind the scenes. And we do it to the best of our ability without tarnishing the reputation of the institution we work for, because it's not allowed, because we're supposed to be neutral. When you see people say, oh, IMF, World Bank, ADB, when they come here, they don't say anything, they just support the government. I say, but that's not our role. Our role is to finance development, to advise governments and to tell them in closed-door meetings what is going wrong in their face. But when you come out, we don't do the advocacy. That is for us, national institutions and civil society organizations to do. When I was at the ADB, what I did behind the scenes, and I did it quietly. So I couldn't. I give, for example, an example of when Musa, I hope you don't mind this, Musa Silla, who was the Minister of Trade and Industry. Mm-hmm. That's just one example of many. Mm-hmm. Musa was Minister of Trade and Trade, Employment and Regional Integration. He came to Abidjan. Mm-hmm. I was based in Abidjan at the time, working for the ADB. And, when he comes, we're together because we're friends from high school and university. He came, he said, big brother, I've got a problem here. Jammeh wants me to sign this agreement with some service providers in Cote d'Ivoire here to generate electricity and to manage waste, etc. Well, this contract looks awful to me. Since you studied law, I want you to take a look at it. I looked at it. I said, Musa, you are in trouble. Say, if you sign this, Gambians will hang you one day. If you don't sign it, you're going to be fired by Jammeh. It's a difficult choice, but you have to make that choice. I say, if you ask me, I would say, don't sign this, because this is absolutely against the interests of the country, and you're going to pay for this. And he said, you're right, that's how I feel. I wanted to get somebody else's opinion. I said, well, that's my honest opinion. He refused to sign it. He came back and gave it back to Jammeh. He refused to sign it. And as I told him, he got fired. Naturally. Jammeh took the energy sector to the State House at the time and moved on, and Musa was fired. So we got him contracts at the ADB to be working, because we want to keep our good people independent and doing the right thing. So those are some things. Musa worked with us for a couple of months getting contracts before he got snapped by the Islamic Development Bank. He's a brilliant guy, and he went on to have a very wonderful career at the Islamic Development Bank. There are many other cases like that we do behind the scenes. The latest was just before, during the impasse. What we did when I was sitting in Abidjan with at the time, the diplomatic advisor to Macky Sall, Maguette Sey. What we did, I don't need to come back on all of those, but we do these things behind the scenes.
It would help if you did.
Yeah, with Maguette Sey, for example, when things were difficult, the ambassador of Senegal in Cote d'Ivoire at the time, Abdoulahat Souran, was my classmate in law school in France. And I went to him and said, look, we are in a difficult situation and you are our closest neighbors. You can help with, a lot of things that's happening in the Gambia. You see what is, we're following. I said, you guys need to help. He said, we are helping, but I'm going to put you in touch with Macky Sall's diplomatic advisor. So he put me in touch with Maguette Sey. And we started discussing, giving him ideas, telling him what we need to know, what they need to know, what could be done. So we did a lot with Maguette Sey, and it got to a point where when the Jammeh refused to go and he was holding, we discussed it, and then we discussed a number of things. And the people here were doing a great job, At the time, the Halifa Salahs, the Maifatis, etc., they were doing a great job here. But we were doing what we could behind the scenes too. And at one point, Margaret told me, okay, we're going to have to dislodge him somehow. I said, we need to, because we cannot let this happen. And he told me about the Nigerian jets where you're going to fly over State House and all of so a whole series of things. So we called some people here to alert them as to what was happening, etc. And the Jammeh list of people who were on that blacklist, I asked him to share it with me too, but he wouldn't. So we give him names, Is X on the list? No. Is X, why? Yeah. So we got those things. And alerted those people to say, look, stay out of harm's way. Go leave your homes, go somewhere else, or get extra security, etc. So a lot of things during that.
I was apparently on that list, and nobody, called me to say get out of harm's way. So I was dispensable to you at the time.
I didn't have your coordinates at the time, but you were on that list. I didn't have your coordinates.
Thanks to the TRRC.
Yeah,
that's why we knew.
Yeah, so I called about a dozen people here. Margaret wouldn't share the list with me, but he confirmed to me A is on the list or B is not on the list, etc. And I called those people. The ones I had phone numbers for, the ones I said, contact A, B, and C. Tell them this is happening. So we don't know which way this is going. If it goes wrong, they could be in harm's way. Let them be careful. If they can leave the country for a while, let them leave. If they cannot, go to the countryside or move to somebody else's house where you wouldn't be traced. One of them told me, I hope you don't mind, to former CC. Former
community development.
Exactly. He said, I'm going nowhere. I'm staying home. I said, don't play the hero. He said, I'm going nowhere. I said, okay, then get at least extra security for your house. He said, I can try, but I'm going nowhere. A number of them moved. Some said, I'm not moving. Like the former, he said, I'm not moving. I'm not scared of this guy. I said, it's not a question of being scared. You have got kids, you got family. Don't play the hero. He said, I'm not moving. He refused to move.
So you helped save lives.
So we did a lot of that and many more things that we don't need to say, because when we do these things, we do it, as we say, fi sabilillah, we do it for the sake of God and the country. We don't need to advertise that. We don't need to come out and say, this is what we did, this is what we did, because that is kind of blowing our own horns. And what we do it because we believe we owe this country. What we have become, we owe it to this country. So we need to give back. When Jammeh came to power, I was already working at the ADB. I had my projects, I had my kids going to schools, etc. I was offered jobs here. I turned them down because I was not going to work in that system. I was offered many types of jobs. I refused. I continued what I was doing there. At the ADB, when the coup happened, everybody put Gambia under sanctions, except the ADB.
Why?
Because we had people at the ADB who were lobbying for it. Key among them, C.D. Sane, who was Permanent Secretary, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. He went on to become minister here at one point on the Jammeh towards the end. C.D. was one of the people. He was Assistant Executive Secretary at the time. C.D. did a lot of lobbying, and many other people lobbied there. So ADB never put Gambia under sanctions.
Why did ADB understand, explanations when other multilateral institutions wouldn't?
Because ADB is an African institution, and it's much closer.
Supporting a military takeover? That was unconstitutional.
No. It's not supporting a military takeover. It's supporting social programs in the country to avoid the country sinking into total chaos.
Yeah, but channels would be funneled through, either government institutions directly or government-leaning institutions.
Some of them went to government directly, some of the funds, but not much. A lot of them went into institutions which were working alongside the government, like parastatals, like civil society organizations. It went into those sort of things.
And Jammeh had his claws in all of those institutions.
Yes.
They did what he wanted.
Yes.
Not what the ADB or other funding agencies wanted.
But if he stopped it at the time, the Gambia would have been completely destitute. And the Gambian people are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Jammeh and his cronies were still going to get by. You remember the Taiwan grant? They dipped their hands into that and made and feathered their nest just in case something went wrong. They were ready for that. But the Gambian people needed assistance to be able to do certain things to avoid the country descending into chaos. And particularly not to get the Gambian people into situations of starvation and that. No, we had to do something. Sometimes you take the lesser of two evils and you do that. And the lesser of two evils at the time was to at least provide some funding to the Gambia to keep it afloat. Otherwise, it would have been horrible.
Okay.
So these things happen and so many other things that I don't want to talk about because it's like blowing my horn. So, and I don't owe the ones who ask that, I don't owe them any explanation. I know what I did. And I just, sometimes you need to say some of these things, because it's important too. But what we did behind the scenes, we did, right? So, yeah. But now I'm much more vocal because now my time is mine. My voice is mine. What I say is Lamin Manneh speaking, not the ADB, and I'm free to say what I say.
And when did you become a member of the UDP? UDP was only formed in 1996, 2 years after Jammeh had seized power, when you were already working with the ADB.
Yeah.
When did you become a member of the UDP, and how did you support the party from distance?
I'd rather not talk about that, because that would be like, as I said, blowing my horn.
Okay.
Okay.
When did you join the UDP?
When I came back formal and joined formally, that was in 2020. 2020, I came back. I formally joined. Post-Jammeh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Then I formally joined because then I had just retired and the conflict is no longer there. I'm no longer an international civil servant who cannot engage in politics. Then my time was mine, my voice was mine. Then I joined the UDP and became a full-fledged member and started working from there.
And do you see yourself as part of a reformist wing, or are you part of, the party's, defending the party's traditional posture?
The party's mainstream. I mean, the party's mainstream. But, like anything, evolution is inevitable or is sclerosis. So we go in there, we look at what have we done, what can we do better, what can we do differently? Because it's not going to be, business as usual. Times change. The country is changing. Regimes have changed. We went from a dictatorship to what we are hoping to be a full-fledged democracy. So you have to adapt, you have to change, you have to fine-tune. So we are doing that, and we continue to do that.
How is the party doing that? Because, that's because of all this, fragmentation. People thought, well, having all these young people on board, Yankuba Dabo, Talib Bensouda, even Rohi Malik Low, these are all relatively young people,
Yes.
when
and that is extremely important because, you see, UDP, we have a very strong youth policy. If you look at our National Executive Committee, more than half are youth. Central Committee, the same thing. So we have a blend of the youth and the elderly. We need that because you need an injection of new blood, new ideas into any institution, or it becomes overtaken by events. And that's sclerosis, intellectual and anything else.
Yeah, but
so when we bring in the youth, when we bring in the elderly, everybody brings something to the table. My experience as an international civil servant, my experience in development financing, my experience that I gathered for working with authorities across the continent and beyond, and the address book, I bring that to the party. Larry Sisi does the same thing. Ismail Sisi does the same thing. Not the information minister, Ismail Sisi of UDP. We bring in all of those things. Clarification important. Because yesterday I was talking to somebody and I said, what Amadou Sani? They say, oh, you criticize Amadou? I said, no, not Amadou Sani UDP, Amadou Sani Barrow's nephew. So these things are important. So all of those people bring something different to the table. And youth are coming with fresh ideas, challenging, bold. And so particularly, they bring in the vigor and the enthusiasm as well. Sometimes you have to temper that a bit, but it's important to bring that. And they bring the irreverence. So all of that is important so that you don't take yourself too seriously and you don't start getting, full of yourself. It's important to have people like that who challenge you. You see, some people tell me, oh, when you hear Mr. Dabo, you always call him Mr. Dabo, but when you're elsewhere, you call him Usainu and the rest. I say, yeah. Because I do that because somebody has to do that so that, we keep him grounded. We don't get to a point where people start worshipping him or thinking he's too much. Yes, I have a lot of love and respect for him, but he is somebody, he's a human being, and we all have our flaws and we all can be led into things. So, yes, call him Usainu, call him Big Brother, Kotoke, call him whatever, but make sure that you don't get it to a point where you look like you are being a sycophant or you worshipping him. I said, no, that will not happen. We are independent-minded and we are independent but loyal to the party. So you do these things.
What mechanisms exist within the UDP to resolve internal disputes without eroding public trust? Because now the party, faces an issue of public trust, given what has played out, openly with Talib.
Yeah, but you see, even that, before answering the question, the idea of party erosion is extremely flawed. What we have is about a dozen people who have left the party, but it's done drip, drip, drip. So you think it's a flawed. It's just a small trickle that's leaving the party. More will leave, certainly. More will leave, certainly, because, they keep this, every now and then 1 or 2 people resign, so it looks like, the party is bleeding. It's not. It's not.
The party is not bleeding?
No, it's not. Oh. We have about a dozen people who left. That's it. The other day, last week...
You just said more will follow.
Yeah, more will follow.
And you cannot determine how many more will follow.
No, you cannot, because that's a democratic process. Some will come, some will go. Okay? But just last week, 50 people, 60 people actually, joined the party from NPP and APRC and had a big meeting with them at the Manjai Bureau.
Oh, you're taking away from APRC and NPP?
Yes, we are. We are on a regular basis. And people are coming, sometimes it's whole villages that come to the party. I have been involved in 3 of those cases but some of them say, please keep this quiet because after that we are just harassed, we can't have any peace of mind. They come here, they threaten us, they try to cajole us, try to coerce us. They do all of that to keep us in the fold. And we are tired of that now.
I'm sure you know how both APRC and NPP will react to that. They will say, oh no, he's just making up things.
Yeah, exactly. They will say that. But we don't need to prove anything to them. 2026 will prove it to them. We have those people coming. Last year when we went on the tour, with Mr. Dawo, the countrywide tour. There were villages where we stopped. We didn't even have them on our program. But driving to those villages, they would stop the convoy, say, you've got to have a meeting with us here. And they would come and tell us, we apologize because we have been misled. Now we see, we did you wrong. So we are with you. We're going to vote for you next. The country is changing fast because the hardship here has made people realize what these people are saying is true. They are for the country and the others are not. UDP is for the country, fighting for the country, and has been consistently doing that for now the 30th year. The others are just enriching themselves and, we see that every day. The corruption is rampant. So people having very difficult moments in this country, nobody needs to tell them. When you go to bed with kids hungry, or when you have 1 meal a day, or you wake up in the morning, you don't have breakfast, you have to scramble and get something at least for the kids to go to school, you know what you're living through. When you cannot meet the needs of the family, you know who to blame for that. This mismanagement in the government. So people live that on a daily basis. And they are beginning to understand that, hey, we have to take responsibility for our lives. We are the ones who can change this situation. We can put an end to this situation and this government. And they are doing that. And they are coming to us. People are calling us directly and say, we want to talk to you. We go sit with them, we talk to them. So all of these things are happening. NPP, they can just bury their head in sand. That's okay with us. 2026 will get their heads out of the sand. So they can accuse us of making up stories. But 2026 will prove it to them. But they know that actually. They know it. That's why they are so worried. That's why they are involving themselves in these massive illegalities of going to give ID cards abroad. Peter...
That's government. That's not NPP. NPP cannot give you any document other than a party membership, card.
That is NPP-led. You see, the government would not be involved in that illegality. When that started, we wrote to the Director General of Immigration and told him, our Citizenship and Nationality Act prohibits you from doing this.
It does?
Of course it does. And we quoted different sections to them. Said, you cannot do this. But you're doing it in all illegality. You know that. You should stop this or we might have to go to court. He replied, said, well, this is not my call. It's my minister's call. Talk to the minister. But we had copied the minister. He could have taken it with the minister and said, look, UDP is saying this, but they didn't. They know what they are doing.
You could have taken it up with the minister. That's what the Director General directed.
Yeah, he doesn't need to direct because he's the one who came out and said this. We copied the minister to his permanent secretary. So they have it. Okay? The illegality is there and they know it. But they are doing all of this because they want to stack the voter rolls when the time comes. But that would not work for them. Okay. We are ready for them.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a long digression. The question was
yes.
internal mechanisms to resolve disputes without eroding public trust.
So coming back to that, we have, for example, to start with, we have the Council of Elders. Anytime something goes wrong, they go around, talk to the different protagonists, and try to find a solution. You know, the role of African elders in the African society, that's exactly what these people are doing. Sometimes, you know, even without talking to Ousainou Darboe, they would go and meet those people and try to find a solution, try to bring people together, try to do what is required to put an end to the conflict or the emerging conflict or disagreements. Most of the time it's just disagreements, you know. So they would work on that. And once they get a solution, they would go inform Ousainou. Sometimes Ousainou says to them, okay, you know what, maybe you should talk to A, B, and C. And they would go and do that. We have also in the National Executive Committee and the Central Committee possibilities for recourse. You can do that. You can go talk to those people, and things will put. You can go to the center, to one of those meetings, and ask your issues to put on the agenda, and we would discuss them. So we have all of these possibilities, but also we have the informal networks within the party itself, within the National Executive Council and Central Committee. When things happen, we take the initiative directly. We call the people and we make them sit and talk individually first and then together to reach a consensus. Sometimes we organize retreats. Like when the issue of the camps were coming up, we have camps here, we have camps there. They said, no, there are no camps there. We said, there are. You know there are. Let's resolve this before it gets out of hand. The National Assembly member for Gunjur area, KK Barrow, offered to host them in Khartoum for a weekend. They asked to go to Khartoum for a weekend to thrashing things out and get to a compromise, etc. We have all of those mechanisms in place. So we do these things.
That didn't seem to work, did it?
No, it didn't work for part of it, because when it happened, everybody went there except Talib. We have to tell the truth so the country knows where we are.
Yeah, tell us the truth, according
everybody
to
went there.
Lamin, Manneh, and UDP.
Yes. Every one of those protagonists, Lamin Sane, Modu Sabali, Yankuba Dabo, Landin Sane.
Oh, so this was a long way back.
A long way back.
Because if you're talking about Modu Sabali,
No, I'm talking about that first retreat. So they were all convened. And they said, look, we are not in any camps.
You had these different camps already, or reports of these?
Reports of that.
Okay.
And we saw some signs which are saying there is an emerging issue here. So we said, let's tackle it before it gets out of hand. So all of those people, Rahim Ali Klo, etc., they were all convened. They all went to Khartoum. Talib did not go. These people, they all came to a conclusion that, look, we are all going to fall behind whoever becomes flag bearer, and we're going to move forward. We don't have any camps. We're all working for this UDP. And I'm not saying this to castigate Talib.
When Talib failed to turn up, what was the conclusion?
That we wish he were there. Because what everybody...
But that's a wish.
Yes.
What's the conclusion? He didn't come because...
He didn't want to come.
Oh.
Yeah. So, as far as I'm concerned, you see, I know people are going to come at me for this. I don't mind. I have a thick skin. But we need to say the truth, say the things the way they are.
Yeah,
that's the only way you can solve a problem. If you ignore a problem, you cannot solve it. To solve a problem, you have to acknowledge it, discuss it, and find a solution.
So what's the truth?
So the truth is that everybody came except Talib, and everybody fell in line with what the party was asking them to do, to put aside these camp issues, what will seem to be emerging, and we work towards unity in the party. Come time for flag bearer selection, everybody is free to contest. If you want at that point, you come out and contest. Until then, Ousainou Darboe is the party Secretary General and putative flag bearer until we choose our next one. So that was the consensus, and we worked on that. But unfortunately, we had still people from the Talib camp, saying all the unfortunate things that were said. And that's one of the time, you remember when I said, look, I think I said it here, I said it in Ketfatu, I said, Talib should talk to his people and ask them to stop this. It's not helping, And that again became a furore. But again, you need to talk about the issues and say them the way they are. And I say these things not to castigate Talib, because he has every democratic right to contest in the party and to have even his own camp if he chooses to, although we would not want that to happen. We wish that did not happen. We wish to have a united party until when we go for selection. But when these things happen, you have to talk about them to find a solution. I avoided talking about it in the media because these things are best settled behind closed doors. And that's what we did. But today we're at a point where all of these things have come into the open, and all sorts of accusations are flying around. So we've got to address them and talk about it. People, for example, go today and say, oh, well, they fought fighting against Talib because it's not Mandinka. Come on, give us a break. Talib's mother is Mandinka, right?
Well,
he is said
we're not talking about Talib's mother. We're talking about Talib.
No. People are saying,
Yeah.
I hear this all the time,
Yeah.
they are excluding him because he's not Mandinka.
Yeah. But they have been odious to that effect. I mean, castigating his ethnicity.
But there are odious to all sorts of things on social media. Some of them, when these things happen, we go out and tell people, you cannot say this, it's not acceptable.
The UDP has gone out to say that?
Absolutely.
Because that's what everybody says is absent. You don't hear voices like Lamin, Manneh,
I've said that so many times.
Hussein Udabos, most especially,
no,
saying,
No, we've said that so many times. Hussein has been on air constantly. He keeps saying that. I say it all the time. Larry says it all the time. Larry was here. He said, we've got to have a debate on this ethnic issue. Larry said it here. I keep saying it. We've said it on different platforms. Because we do not believe in this tribal, excuse my language, nonsense. I am from a family where we have that ethnic diversity. Some of my cousins are half Fuller. Some are half Jola. My nieces, some of them are half Jola. My sister married a Jola. My uncle, one of my uncles, my grandfather's brother, married a Wolof. So my uncle is half Wolof, half Mandinka, bless his soul. He married a Jola woman. So you see the mixture in the party. We have everything. How can I be ethnic oriented and face those people tomorrow? It won't happen. We have, and that is not just my family, that runs right across the country and the UDP as well. So anybody who talks tribal politics, we condemn it. We say, you're not supposed to be doing this because we are a nation. We're trying to build a nation of Gambians, not an amalgamation or a conglomerate of ethnic groups. No. What we want is a Gambian nation, not these tribal things. When Barrow invites tribes to the State House, we condemn it. When his people make tribal comments, we condemn it. Because it's not supposed to happen in this country. We saw what tribalism did across the continent. The war in Cote d'Ivoire, we saw it there. And I lived it firsthand. And I had to move out of the country. We went to Tunisia for 12 years to escape that war.
What about
Rwanda?
What about immediately expelling people who associate themselves with the UDP, yet they go out on all these tribal diatribe, tribal bigots, because they are out there in droves?
Let me no. You see, like there are cases sometimes people come out and do this, make these accusations and say all of these horrible things. They are not even UDP for most of the cases. Let me give you two examples. The sister of this guy, what's his name again? Mansa Sumare, Barrow's driver, who said he wore, some charms or whatever for Barrow. He wouldn't pray for 10 days, etc. Who was involved in the diplomatic, passport scandal. His sister, they're all NPP, came to one of the stations and cast aspersions on Jolas and other ethnic groups in the country and calling them names and claimed to be UDP. We hunted her down. When we eventually found her, we tried to, who is this lady? We hunted her down, we found her, took her to the police. I think it's on Yundum or Busumbala down that area. Handed her over to the police. Said, this is what is happening. This is, and
so okay, that was an imposter. That you identified.
Another very important case. One of our supporters just after the elections was saying, "No, we've got to pick up arms and fight against God." I say, "Are you crazy?" We hunted that guy down too. We found him in Busumbala and handed him over to the police. We do not accept this.
Why didn't you expel him at once? Kick him out of the party?
Yeah, he was no longer in the party. He was handed over to the police. What they did with him later, we don't know. We adopted recently a code of conduct because we try to do everything according to the rules. We adopted a code of conduct now which says clearly anybody who engages in this, if you're a party member, will expel you from the party. suspension sometimes, and then expulsion if you persist. So we have adopted, and Almami Fandin Tala I told you here was the guy who wrote that for us. And he was here.
Well,
and
I asked him to talk about the code of conduct, but he thought, it was not his place to do. So when will this code of conduct be publicly discussed so that we know what is in it?
No, I don't think there's anything secretive about it.
Yeah, okay.
Because the code of conduct is to ensure that everybody behaves in a manner which is consistent what we expect of every decent Gambian. Mm-hmm. We should have decorum. We should have respect for each other. We can criticize each other and be very vocal, but that does not preclude respect.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We are with Lamin Manneh on Monday, the 22nd of September, 2025. Still to come more on Talib and, the party's internal disputes.